morning, everybody. This is another Motivation Money Making Monday. We are taking it to the all access aspect with Dr. Carolyn McLaughlin on this morning so that we can find out a little bit more about who she is, what position that she holds as a public servant in the city of Albany, and find out what her background is, what she has done, and what she looks to do in the future to better the city of Albany. So, great morning. Great morning, Dr. Carolyn McLaughlin. How are you feeling today?
Great morning to you as well. I love the way you said that. Great morning.
Yes.
Great morning. Taking it to another level.
That's right. We don't do good. We do great. Yes. And we got to strive for that in everything that we do. So how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I woke up this morning. I try to wake up with a positive attitude. Just grateful to wake up.
Absolutely.
Every day. That's not just today, but that's every day.
Absolutely.
Morning by morning, new mercies I see.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I feel good. Got some challenges. Life's not perfect, but I'm perfectly suited to meet the challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I love that spirit.
Yeah.
So as we get into this, I need to know, who is Carolyn McLaughlin?
When I saw that question, it really gave me pause. And I had this, it's a simple thing. You like to say, well, most times people will say, I'm Dr. Carolyn McLaughlin. Most time I would say, I'm an Albany County legislator. I'm serving the first district of Albany County, which is this south end of Albany. But I'm so much more than that.
Absolutely.
I am so much more than that. I am a person who cares, who's compassionate, who knows who she is, as a courageous woman who has been blessed to receive many things and to do many things.
Yes.
Only to be given the opportunity to share those blessings with others. I mean, that might sound kind of altruistic and pie in the sky, but I believe that.
Yes.
I'm blessed. I'm a woman who's been blessed to be a blessing.
Yes.
And I take that very seriously. And I get I don't always get kind of emotional about it, because the older I get, the more I realize just how blessed I have been. And it's not been about me, but who can be blessed through what I do.
Yes.
Just like I've been blessed through what many people have done and poured into my life.
Yes.
I'm an Albany girl. And I say that with pride.
Yes.
I grew up in South End and Arbor Hill of Albany, because we lived between Arbor Hill and the South End, because my parents owned a grocery store in the South End and we lived in Arbor Hill.
Wow.
So you had both worlds.
Yes.
You had to know how to deal with everybody from both ends of the city. And I think that was a real plus. To have to live, because it was two different communities. And also, I had great parents.
Yes.
I had great parents.
Yeah, that's a blessing in and of itself.
And they were not college educated. They were not even high school educated. But they could have run any corporation in this country.
Yes.
They ran their own family business. Their 7 children were their employees. And because of what they poured into us, morals, a work ethic, a respect for them, and a respect for each other.
Yes.
It transcended outside of the home to respect those that you encounter out in the world.
Yes.
You're not better than anybody, but you're not less than anybody either.
Yes.
That was the attitude that they instilled in us. You treat people right, and hopefully they'll do the same for you.
Right.
And my parents were very giving. I have 2 brothers and 4 sisters. And one of my sisters is deceased. I did have one sister died as 9-year-old, 8-year-old, I think.
Wow.
I was an infant,
Hmm.
so I never knew her.
Yes.
But so there were 8 children altogether, but I grew up with 7 in the household and my parents.
Wow.
So that's a business right there.
Right.
So I learned how to interact with people in our home. And my father was just a hardworking man.
Yes.
And I take great pride in talking about him and my mother, who we
Yes.
call the Renaissance woman who did everything.
Wow.
And so I take great pride in my background.
Hmm.
And that's, where it all started.
Yes.
So, but I love being around people. I love to laugh.
Hmm.
I got a great sense of humor, I think.
Yes. So in essence, you are just all the way well-rounded based on the upbringing that you have. Your parents instilled in you the right things to how to treat people, how to live fully, and you was well socialized coming out of your house because you had a whole tribe that was within your house.
Exactly. If you can't get along in the house, you're not going outside.
That's right.
That's the way it was. And I think your siblings
Mm-hmm.
teach you a lot
Mm-hmm.
because everybody in the house has a different personality.
Yes.
And you will encounter those same people
Mm-hmm.
when you go outside the house.
Absolutely.
So thank God for my siblings who've taught me a lot
Right.
about me and a lot about emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and well, that's one of the key factors in politics and in life as a
Yes,
whole is
absolutely.
having emotional intelligence. The people with an increased amount of emotional intelligence is able to do extremely well and be successful amongst, us as people.
Yeah.
So that's very important to make sure that we have that, and having a family such as what you do and what you have grown up in has allowed for you to show that in the job that you do now.
Like you said, my family, that's the basis of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only in my latter years
Mm-hmm.
that I have come to even appreciate who I am.
Wow.
And it's some of the things that I've done in my latter years
Mm-hmm.
that have shown me who I really am.
All right.
I'm a courageous woman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I hold myself accountable for what I've done. I'm honest with myself
Yes.
and I'm honest with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I give everything I got
Mm-hmm.
to a fault.
All right. Yeah. Well, family is the foundation of everything, of communities, of cities, of states, of this nation. So family makes those things up, and they definitely make up the individuals that we are. What made you take on the position in your current office as a public servant?
When I think back, I grew up in Albany and I moved after I went to college
Mm-hmm.
and came back. I moved away. I moved to California. And I
Mm-hmm.
lived in California for 10 years. And then I moved back to Albany, something I thought I'd never do.
Mm-hmm.
And soon as I came back, in the interim, I lost my father, and I came back. I mean, I think I cried for 6 months. Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Um, but here it is, almost 30 years later,
Mm-hmm.
um, and over 30 years later. What am I talking about? And when I came back, I needed to find something to do.
Yes.
I got a good job with New York State, and I needed some outside activities.
Mm-hmm.
Been in church all my life, but I needed something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I started volunteering for the Urban League, the NAACP,
Mm-hmm.
and different groups, the United Way.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that,
Mm-hmm.
I got involved with a lot of nonprofit organizations. So, and then one day I just decided, why don't I run for office? I was complaining about potholes in my neighborhood.
Right.
Literally, that's what drove me to this.
Right.
I remember standing in potholes on South Pearl Street.
Yes.
There was a 3-year plan. This was in '97. There was a 3-year plan that had been established to pave Pearl Street from 2nd Avenue to Livingston Avenue. And they had 3 phases. And the south end portion was the 3rd phase.
Yes.
Which meant the 3rd year. Which meant the money could run out by then.
Absolutely. Right,
So
right. I get that.
all of that drove me to run for office.
Yes.
Like, why are we on the last end? And invariably the money and it did.
Yes.
Or you take the money that was allocated for my part of town and you used it somewhere else because you ran out up there. So by the time you got to me, you run the risk of not having any money for me. Right. That was an issue for me.
Absolutely.
It just made no sense. Why are we last?
Right.
When we're the most vulnerable neighborhood. And then can you guarantee me that there's going to be money? So I felt that I had to be a voice for the people in that community, people who were intimidated by a system that they had never learned how to navigate.
Yes.
And, I felt that I could be a voice for people who didn't feel they had a voice.
Yes.
And that was in '97, and here we are.
2024.
Still out there.
So what position did you take on when you initially ran?
Well, I was in, at the time, we were still called aldermen in the city of Albany, so with the Common Council.
Yes.
So I ran for 3 terms. I served 12 terms.
Wow.
12 years, I'm sorry. 3 terms, 12 years as the council member. We later became council members representing the South End of Albany. And then after those 12 years, I ran for president of the council. And I served for 8 years, 2 terms. I was the first African American to serve as president of the Albany Common Council.
Wow.
And so that was 20 years total with serving the city of Albany.
Yes.
And then in 2016 was when I retired from that.
Yes.
And 17. And then I ran for mayor in 17. And then after I didn't win that seat, I did retire for about 18 months.
Yes.
And then I got tired of sitting at the TV saying, what are they doing? What are they thinking?
Right.
So I ran for office again.
Yes.
So now that's why I'm sit as a county legislator now.
Yes.
Because I realized this, everybody's got a ministry, everybody's got a calling. This is mine.
That's your purpose.
And I own up to it.
Yes.
And I walk in it.
Yes. Yeah, like once you get your gift or your calling or your purpose or assignment in life, then you can't stop doing it just because you have some challenges or some hurdles that you have to overcome, or you feel like you got knocked down or had a attempt that was made that wasn't successful. So you got to continue on in your calling and making sure that you are continuously being the voice of the people. And who knows whether or not the position that you're in is growing you to become even more than what you are right now. So it's all about a journey. It's all about a process. And your father owned the business in the South End, and you became the voice of the South End. So it's sort of like a legacy being continued.
Absolutely.
So what's the difference between a council member and a legislator?
Well, the city has purview over different things than the county.
Okay.
The city, you got police, fire, make sure your streets are clean. Those are the largest. DGS, fire department, police department, those are the largest agencies within the city. In the county, you're dealing with social services, the sheriff's department, the health department, public works. It's at a different level. And I think that you're in the city, you're hitting you're closer to the people, I think,
Mm,
in terms of the level at which you interact with people.
mhm,
Uh, I think I have transcended and taken that same kind of relationship that I had with people working as a common council member
mhm.
and moved it right into working as a county legislator
Okay.
because it's all about people, how you serve people.
Absolutely.
And we're more policy driven at the county level,
Okay.
and in the city, to me, it's more service delivery.
Mhm,
People want their streets cleaned.
mhm,
They want the potholes fixed. They want to make sure their water is running properly.
mhm,
They want to make sure that they feel safe in their community.
mhm,
Um, they want to make sure that when they call the police, somebody's coming. When
mhm,
they call the fire department, they're gonna get there in 30 seconds
mhm.
or less.
Yeah.
As unrealistic as that may be,
All right.
but so it's all ultimately it's all about how you serve people,
Yes.
but who's responsible for what is
Mhm,
different. The
mhm,
city of Albany is responsible for public housing.
mhm.
um, in the county, you may provide people with the resources they need to get into public housing, but we don't
Mm.
control public housing.
Got you.
The city of Albany does.
Got you. So the city dictates they're more direct with the interactions of people everyday living, where the county really creates the policy. Is that correct?
Policies that um, the city is just the city of Albany
Yes.
or the town of Colony
Mhm,
or the city of Troy, whereas the county, in the county, Albany County encompasses like, well, Colony,
mhm,
Waterville, Latham,
mhm,
the hill towns. I
mhm.
mean, it's over 300,000 people as opposed to Albany city itself. It's just over 100. I think we reached 100,000
Mhm.
in the last census.
Yes.
So you have a lot of cities and towns are governed by what takes place in the county, the
Got you.
policies that we put in place. In
Mhm.
the city of Albany, as a common council member, as the mayor, you are responsible for initiatives and policies that only affect the
The
city of
city of
Albany.
Albany, but
Yes,
the legislator pretty much oversees and somewhat influences and governs the totality of
of the
the
county,
county.
because
Anything
we
that's in Albany
supersede
County. Uh-huh.
some of the things that go on in the city.
Got you.
And I think that when we make decisions, we're making decisions that not only affect one community,
Hmm.
but the
Impacts and
totality,
affects all of
yeah,
them. Right.
throughout Albany County.
Wow.
People that live in a city, people that live in a town, people
Hmm.
that live out in the country.
Hmm.
So when you make a decision, you got to understand that you got to think of everybody
Right.
when you make that decision. Not like I said, it's about the sum of those people that you're talking about, not just some
Absolutely.
people,
Right.
but the sum of those people. That's an
Yes.
attitude that I have. When you make a decision, you got to think of the sum, SUM,
Hmm.
not just SOME. You
Yes.
got to think of the sum of
Of the people.
everybody
Right.
when you're making a decision, whether that's in the county
Hmm.
or in the city. When
Hmm.
you make a decision, you got to understand that
Hmm.
it's not only going to impact people in that neighborhood, it's going to impact people in another neighborhood.
Absolutely. And with that being said, it's always important to look at how it's gonna suit or impact or affect the person that's living in the hills versus somebody that's living in South End,
That's right.
because both of those people is gonna be impacted, and try to do your best to find some common ground, if you will, to make
Hmm.
sure that everybody is being taken care of in the best fashion or the best way possible with
Hmm.
the policies that's in place.
Because you can make it a total sum game in that, um, and you can make it a win-win situation. You may not
Hmm.
get everything you want,
Hmm.
but if everybody can get something.
Right.
And there's a book out called "The Sum of Us,"
Hmm.
SUM, by Heather McGee. And it's become my mantra.
Yes.
Because I do believe if I think about you when I am making a decision about me, then that we're going to have established some common ground.
Absolutely.
Because we have things in common, more in common than differences.
Absolutely.
And I need water just like you need water. You know, I need sunshine just like you do. And I need affordable living opportunities. I need employment opportunities just like you. These are common things that transcend communities.
Absolutely.
And if I'm making a decision over here, invariably it's going to impact people over there.
Yes.
And so let's be equitable. Let's think about it in terms of equity as we make decisions, no matter what place we find ourselves in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point that you made. And as far as like making sure that things are equitable, you know, and that goes back to where we started with the potholes. Like when you have situations where you have a limited amount of resources, you got to make sure that those resources are used in the neighborhoods that need it the most and are not being allotted to places that they originally wasn't supposed to be allotted to, just because somebody else is making a phone call or doing something that kind of subverts those resources somewhere else. You got to put them where it's needed, where it's equitable, and making sure that what was said to be going to be used for that area will be used for that area to better those communities.
And we have to make sure people understand the difference between equal and equitable, because it's not the same.
Right, absolutely.
You know, we have very beautiful neighborhoods in the city of Albany.
Absolutely.
And then we have some very challenged neighborhoods. Those beautiful neighborhoods are probably paying, they are. They're paying the lion's share of taxes in the city of Albany.
Yes.
Where 68% of property is tax exempt.
Yes.
So the rest of us, the 32%, are paying the 100% of the taxes in the city of Albany. So when you think about, sure, you got to make sure those people's needs are being met. But I guarantee you that if you ignore, which has been the case for many years, if you ignore those more challenged neighborhoods, it's going to affect that pristine neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And I am of the mind, and in all my years of talking with people throughout the city of Albany, people care about this city. I don't care what neighborhood you live in. People care about other neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
People that live in Buckingham Pond area, people that live in Bishop's Gate, people that live in Pine Hills, people that live in the Helderberg area. Those folks care about what's going on in the Arbor Hill and West Hill and North Albany and the South End. They do. They care about it, because so goes their neighborhoods, so goes the image of Albany.
Right.
So they want to see people rise up. They want to see neighborhoods lifted up. And I take great pride in knowing that, so that as you talk to people around this city, I don't care where you go and what age group you talk to, their concerns are the same. Their concerns are the same. So that is, to me, that makes it easy to go around and try to be a public servant in the city of Albany, because people care about one another.
Yes.
And you might not know that, because we don't talk about it much, but people do care.
Yes.
Across neighborhoods.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And it's also important to highlight the fact that a lot of people care to a certain degree because they don't see the totality of the issues that exist within certain neighborhoods, because of the fact that they are living somewhat in a bubble. Whereas I run a business downtown Albany, and a lot of times after 5 o'clock, you see a lot of the population or the people that's there during the day are leaving and going to their different neighborhoods, and really is not impacted directly by the other things that are going on in the neighborhoods. And for a large part, they may be unaware because they're not living in that reality outside of just working in that space. So whatever that they experience during that time is just based on their job functions, and then they leave out of that space.
Mm-hmm.
So they care about what happens during that time frame. Well, whether it's a panhandler or something like that, but the
Right.
people that actually live in the neighborhood, they have greater issues that they're dealing, whether it's housing, whether it's police brutality or policing the neighborhoods or safety issues. All of these things are not impacted the people that are just there for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And they care about what affects them during that period of time, but they may not even be aware or fully know about the tens or hundreds of other issues that exist within the neighborhood that the people that live there on a regular basis have to deal
Absolutely.
with. So they care, yes, but to what degree? And a lot of times it's because they don't know about the other issues that the people that actually live in these neighborhoods are facing on a daily basis, and it's like one-sided.
Yeah, when you say they care to a certain degree, if you're coming in taking the same route, getting in every day, you get off the highway, you go in the underground, park your car, go upstairs, you finish your work day, you get in your car, you go underground,
Right.
and you go right back out on the highway. Or you get on the roundabout and easy on, easy off,
Right.
to get into your job. So you care about that route that you're taking.
Exactly.
And like you said, and the environment in which you are working. So you're kind of limited. And right now there's a big initiative going on regarding 787, reimagine I-787. And that is about reopening, in my mind, the city of Albany to people who come and go. This 787 divided the city.
Absolutely.
787 shut off the city because people can go around the city and go around the problems rather than getting in those neighborhoods and supporting businesses that are like yours that are in the neighborhood.
Right.
Because you don't have to go, you don't have to see the challenges that are in the neighborhood. You don't get the opportunity to see the great things that are going on in the city of Albany because you're getting on the highway, you're going around the city rather than getting down into the city and seeing the richness that is offered in the city of Albany to the point that, hey, it might excite you. You may decide you want to live in the city of Albany. And we're seeing a lot of that with a lot of apartments that are being built downtown Albany.
Absolutely.
And because people they're looking for easy access. And I'm excited about what this reimagined 787 can bring to the city of Albany and how it can change people's perception, change people's access to Albany, change people's access to neighborhoods, and maybe grow some of the neighborhoods, right now that have some challenges as it relates to housing, safety, affordability. So I'm just wondering, I'm going to ask you a question. When all these apartments that have come downtown, is it impacting your business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like in the last few years with the new increase in residency that's in downtown Albany and the surrounding areas, it definitely has had a positive impact on business because when people live in the neighborhood, they have no choice but to patronize and go to the businesses that's around there where they live. They're going to be out walking their dogs. They're going to be out walking down the street or just doing normal everyday social activities. And that leads people into your business to say, hey, let me take a look at this shop, or hey, let me go get a cup of coffee, or hey, let me visit this restaurant. So the money then in turns, or the patronizing of those businesses that's in the area increases because people actually live in the neighborhood. And when people live in the neighborhood, they want to see the neighborhood be better, do better. And then they actually see the richness of a neighborhood because they're there and they're living there on a regular basis.
And they want services in their neighborhood.
Absolutely.
You didn't have to get in your car and drive 20, 30 minutes to go and get just the essentials.
Right, absolutely.
And I like, I mean, I patronize businesses on Pearl Street. I grew up oh, when Pearl Street was thriving,
Yeah.
and it was I mean, there was a store, every 10 feet.
Right.
And, when the mall started and all that. So, uh, kind of making myself sound like I'm ancient. But,
Not at all, because I
but that's
see.
not so long ago,
Yeah, I see
right?
pictures of downtown Albany in its heyday, and how it was just such a bustling
Yeah. And Central
community.
Avenue, and people supported
Yeah.
the community.
Hmm.
And when I see that, and I yearn for some more of that downtown,
Hmm.
because you do. And I go down, and I try to go into the restaurants that are there, the small businesses that are there,
Hmm.
to let them know that we appreciate you being here.
Hmm.
We understand that you could be many places,
Right.
but you choose to be right here.
Hmm.
It was your choice to be here. You don't have to be here. It was
Absolutely.
your choice. So I support businesses on Pearl Street and Central Avenue, and I encourage other people to do the same. But we
Hmm.
got to make sure that those people are operating in an environment
Hmm.
that makes them feel safe,
Hmm.
but also that is going to encourage people to patronize them.
Absolutely.
So we have an obligation as leaders in the city and in the county,
Hmm.
to make sure that people who have invested in the city,
Hmm.
businesses who have chosen to invest in the city of Albany, that we give you the best that
Right.
we have to offer.
Right.
And making sure the streets are clean in front of your businesses,
Hmm.
making sure that there's ample parking opportunities for your patrons, making sure that we just keep the city clean,
Hmm.
and inviting, so that when you have responsibilities in front of your individual businesses, but we, as a city and as a county, we have an opportunity and an obligation to make sure that when people live, work, or visit
Hmm.
our city, that they're coming into a city where they feel safe, where it's clean,
Hmm.
and businesses are going to be successful if they choose
Absolutely.
to operate here.
Absolutely. And one of the big things that I always say, if the city and the government is doing their job, then my job as a business owner, I'm going to definitely do mine. Because once the people come in, it's my job to make sure that anybody that walks through my doors have a great experience and get what they came there to get, So that's my job. And as long as the city and the government is doing theirs, then everything
Hmm.
will work at its optimum level. Yeah.
Yeah, I like when you say it's about the experience when they come
Yes.
into your place of
Hmm.
business. It's not about um, just buying an item. The
Absolutely.
experience of buying that item
Absolutely.
is what brings somebody back.
Absolutely. I live by the Maya Angelou, a person that forget what you did, what you said, but they will never forget how you
You
made
made
them
them
feel.
feel.
So I always want to make sure that a person has a great experience in my establishment or when they come in contact with me, even walking down the street. So, all of those things matter to me. And I know that that makes the difference of whether a business uh, survives or thrives
Hmm.
and is successful. And I always want to be on the thriving and successful end of things.
And
And
that's something, because I tell you, my parents had a grocery store for about 25 years.
mhm,
And my father was always you smile. And if you
mhm.
can't smile, you go in the back until you can, because you're not
Right,
going home, because
right.
you're going to work.
Yes,
But you go in
yes,
the back and get yourself together.
yes,
And then you come
absolutely.
back up, because I don't
Right,
want you scaring my customers away.
absolutely.
And so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I will say that whenever I've gone into your business and you have been there, your employees, um, they operate that same way.
Yes. Yeah, that's important to me.
Yeah,
That's important to me.
yeah,
When you walk into somebody's business, you walk into a presentation of their mind, how their mind functions.
yeah.
So I say that about anybody's business, not just my own. So
Hmm.
when you walk in, you see the how their mind works. So you always want to make sure that the people that's coming in your door see the best representation of your mind and the idea that you was able to bring to fruition with your business.
Hmm.
Yes. So what's next for Dr. Carolyn McLaughlin?
Well, actually, I'm this weekend. I will be graduating, going through my graduation ceremony for my doctorate.
Okay,
I
congratulations.
Thank you. I finished my dissertation at, about 6 months ago, but
Okay.
the school, St. John Fisher University in Rochester.
Hmm.
So their formal graduation ceremony is this weekend.
Oh,
So I'm excited about that.
hmm
Um, and as someone reminded me the other day, um, when I chose to go back to school at this point in my life, it was something for me.
Yes.
And what I do with it is now something I'm seeking direction,
Hmm.
for God. What do you
hmm
want me to do with this added experience that I've had,
Yes.
this added lived experience that I have? How
hmm
can I use that to make the world a better place?
hmm
The world that I live in,
hmm
and the world that's going to come after me.
Yes.
And so, for me now, I've decided I'm running for mayor of Albany,
Okay.
and that's important to me. I believe that's been a goal of mine
hmm
since I got into public office.
Yes.
The 20 years that I spent in City Hall
hmm
as a council member and as president of the council, to me, the natural step for me next was the corner office as
Yes.
mayor of the city of Albany. And
Yes.
I believe that I am prepared to do that.
hmm
Um, I've been professionally prepared, educationally prepared, um, and just experience in terms of dealing with the people um, in the city, throughout the county, and the state. I mean, I've worked at the city level, the county
hmm
level, and the state level, and
hmm
I've had interactions with folks, leaders at the federal level. So I've had interactions and experience with all levels of government.
Right.
And I believe that I am prepared to bring that experience as a leader in the city of Albany. I
hmm
believe that it's time to bring a different perspective
hmm
to that role as a city that the demographics are changing significantly
Yes.
toward people of color. I
hmm
think that when you go to the Capitol in support of resources, or to the federal government and looking for support for resources for this city,
hmm
and you're talking about me.
Yeah.
You're talking about people I represent. I go as a representative of everyone.
hmm
But so often, when we are looking at some of the challenges that face our cities, so often they're talking about the BIPOC community,
Yeah.
those people of Black, Indigenous people, and people of color that are in our cities. And it's important that we make sure that their perspective is reflected in what we are asking for and
hmm
what our expectations are in
Absolutely.
terms of what rolls down into our city.
hmm
Albany has many challenges. Albany has many gaps. Albany has, but Albany is one of the original 13 colonies in this country.
Yeah.
So therefore, why don't we need to respect this city for who and what it represents? And I believe at this point, it's time for someone with my perspective
hmm
to go forward and ask for what we need,
hmm
and not take no for an answer.
Right.
Because there's certain things that I've been crying for over almost 30 years
hmm
for the city of Albany. How come
hmm
those needs have not been met? Um, the business community is looking for somebody with a different voice to
hmm
share a different relationship with them. They want a relationship with the corner office at City Hall because
hmm
taxes are driving not only residents out of Albany, but it will drive
Businesses.
businesses
Absolutely.
out of Albany. The people in this community are looking for someone who can talk about the public safety issues in this city. Because if you
hmm
don't have a safe city, you won't have a great city, and
That's a
people
fact.
will leave. People want somebody who can talk about the housing affordability
hmm
in this city. Look at the housing stock.
hmm
It, it goes from, you have excellent housing stock, and then you have very poor housing stock
Right.
because we have ignored certain communities.
hmm
And then when it will take you $400,000 to rehab a house that then you can only sell for half of that, That's neglect
Yeah.
that has taken place over 30 years,
Mhm.
that now you want me to restore it. And you have the land trust, the land bank,
Mhm.
um, that are trying to provide housing stock to individuals in the city of Albany so
Mhm.
that they can invest. But you got to make it affordable for people to invest in the city.
Right.
And some of that affordability comes from resources that need to flow down from the state and from the federal government. So
Right.
I want to be a voice to get those resources into this city, um, and to make it a place where people look to Albany as their first choice,
Yeah, as a beacon. Yeah.
not as their last resort.
Mhm.
Because there's so many of us that live here because it is our first choice. Not well, I don't have to live in Albany. I
Right.
could have moved to the suburbs many years ago.
Yes.
But I have dedicated my life
Mhm.
to making sure that um, my neighborhood has many issues. South End of Albany has the largest amount of public housing in the city of Albany, but that should be quality housing.
Right.
That should be quality housing, no matter where you live. It
Mhm.
should be quality housing.
Right.
It should be affordable housing. When you look at our senior community, people who have bought homes and have paid for their homes and now are living on fixed income, and um, taxes could drive them out of their home. It's
Mhm.
my job to make sure that that doesn't happen, that you get tax exemptions as a senior citizen, based on your limited income, so that you can stay in your home.
Right.
Um, because it's better to have someone age in place than have to age in a nursing home
Right.
or in an assisted living, um, or in a skilled nursing facility. If people can stay in their home, they will live longer.
Right.
They will
Right.
live
And you don't
longer.
want our senior citizens to be displaced.
Don't want them to be this. So whether you're a young adult
Mhm.
starting out on your own looking for your first apartment,
Mhm.
or you're a family of four, or you're a family of six, two parents and four children,
Mhm.
or there are a lot of single parent homes in the city of Albany, all the way to that senior citizen. We are looking for housing affordability, and Albany is you got such a mix. There's
Mhm.
something for everybody, and as a leader of this city, I believe it's important that we speak up
Mhm.
to make sure that everybody is served at every level that I've just named to you.
Mhm.
And I want to be that voice.
Yes.
There's challenges. I want to be able to tell the story. Albany has a great story to tell. You
Mhm.
got some of the best educational institutions in the capital region
Mhm.
that you could ever want to
Yeah.
have your young people attend. I want to make sure that those relationships are stable.
Mhm.
You've got some of the best medical care you can receive right here in the Capital District. And you got some of the best entertainment that is easy access to the city of Albany, right here in the city of Albany,
Right.
to Saratoga. New York City is a train ride away or
Right.
a 2.5 hour car ride. We are in a prime location. You got entertainment in Troy, Schenectady. I mean, we got to think regionally
Right.
when it comes to what it means to live in the city of Albany. So
Mhm.
that's the perspective I'm trying to have in terms of building relationships that'll move the city of Albany to the next level. We've
Mhm.
had some great leaders in the past.
Mhm.
So now it's time to just bring a different perspective, different mindset.
Mhm.
Um, I think that I believe, I know that I'm the person
Mhm.
that can do that and that can bring the message forward, and get the answers that we need to make sure that the city of Albany is sustained, and not only sustained, but grows,
Yeah.
but grows.
Yeah. I think that that's very important, that it grows for the better, and that it takes on new perspective, because now that we are in the stage that we are right now, the only way for it to grow is to have new perspective and to change with the time, so that it continuously grow, get the resources that we need to better the city. And the ideas that are coming forward with our younger generation has to be matched with the
Absolutely.
ideas of the older generation that it already has lived and existed in Albany, and find some balance. So the equity is very important to exist within the city, making sure not just housing is affordable, but also that we have increases in wages. And if we have
Absolutely.
increases in wages, then that means that the businesses that's there is getting the resources and having the flow of traffic and people coming into their business that's spending money, so that they can hire and hire better, and pay their employees better. So it's all the ecosystem that needs to be in place. And if
Absolutely.
we create that through having the necessary resources that we have to build within the city, then we will have a greater and a better city. My question to you now is, how can the people assist in making these changes, these overcoming these challenges, and making sure that we do our part as citizens and people that live within the communities to help? Because it's not a one-sided job.
Right. Right.
Is nobody. You might be the voice, but the people are the body that runs the voice, know what I'm saying, or put the words in the mouth of the voice. So we want to make sure that the body is doing its part to make sure that the things that we need to see or we want to happen within the city are actually being amplified through the person that we put in power of public service. So what can we do?
Well, I think you have to speak up. Share your perspective. I think you said something about the different generations. And any organization right now, you have probably 4 generations in that organization.
Right.
And everybody is living from a different and seeing things from a different perspective. But they all serve, to create an environment where everybody is being benefited. So you got to speak up.
Yeah.
You can't just sit back and say and complain about what you see in your own corner. You got to make sure people understand.
Right.
People know what you are thinking. So share your perspective. And then it's up to me, as someone who wants to do the work, to listen to you.
Right.
And when I make a decision, it has to reflect what you said to me.
Right.
There's some of us.
Yes.
And so I'm willing to listen and then to respond to what you have said to me. So become an active participant in creating the change you want in the city of Albany. I know it was a mantra when President Obama was running: be the change, be the change that you're looking for. That's real.
Right.
You don't just depend on somebody over there to do it.
Right.
If you have an idea, bring it forward, and let's see if we can make it work.
Yeah.
Don't say no, but say how can we do it.
Right.
I think there's an organization in the south end of Albany. That's their mantra. Don't say no, but how.
Right.
And I'm not looking for a no. I'm looking for how can we do this.
Right.
And that's the way I see it as well. Let's see, how can we make that happen? And let's try it. And I think so. Make your voice known. Be an active participant. Challenge those who are coming before you, who are asking to be your leader.
Right.
And if they can't meet the challenge, they don't understand your perspective, then you need to call that into question.
Right.
But share your perspective.
Right.
And I think it's so important to be involved. Come out of your silo and interact with others who are maybe doing something different than you.
Right.
But the end game is the same.
Right.
They want the environment to be better. They want it to be a safer city. They want it to be a city that offers opportunities, as you stated, workforce opportunities. There are so many. There's billions of dollars being poured into the capital region. And when I talk about being a regional city, a city that thinks regionally, because some of the jobs are here, but some of them are in outlying areas. You got a Regeneron. You got continue to have Plug Power. You got you got Global Foundries. You've got things going on at the port, and even in the port of Queens. So all of these in the educational community, all of these offer um, very family sustainable jobs for people. So if people are working, as you said, they can buy that home. They can take root in the city of Albany. Then they can patronize those businesses that are in the city so that the businesses stay, the families stay, the children get educated. And it, you talked about it being an ecosystem. For sure, it absolutely is. One hand feeds the other. And we as leaders in this community, we got to make sure that people see the value of Albany, that the people in the capital see the value of the capital city of Albany. When you look at the amount of revenue that comes in the city of Albany from the state, it pales in comparison to Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, even Utica gets more money than we do from the state of New York. We got to fix that. We have got to make our case stronger to make sure that we get equitable resources. Because I'm going to tell you, if we were to get resources from the state on par with those 5 major cities that I named, and including Yonkers, to the 5 majors, Yonkers, Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, and Rochester. If those are the top 5, if we were on par with them, we would get an additional maybe $40 million.
Wow.
We should be getting from the state of New York. And we got to make that happen.
What has stopped us from receiving that? Like when you say on par, what has been the biggest challenge to us receiving those same fundings from the state that the other 5 big cities get?
Well, you know, one of it is, as my history has shown me, we've been a victim of our own success. We've been a successfully run city. A number of those cities have been, in the past, had control boards managing their finances because they had financial difficulties. And when they had those difficulties, they were given extra funding to support them.
Wow.
Then that funding became a part of their
budget.
So, but we've been a victim of our own success. There's there's a report out there that was written maybe 10, 12 years ago called Capital Punishment. The capital is being punished. We are the capital.
Yeah.
And we're being punished for our own success. Also, when the Empire State Plaza was built, there was an initiative called 19A. 19A laid out a plan for giving resources to the city of Albany in payment in lieu of taxes as a pilot, because when Empire State Plaza was built, it decimated a whole community.
Yeah.
So this is how the state of New York was going to pay back into the city of Albany. But that funding, it was a 30-year plan. That funding went down year by year by year by year. I believe now it may be even less than $1 million.
Yeah.
But it started out at I believe over $30 million.
Yes.
But each year it went down. So we need to go back and revisit 19A. And our legislators at the state level need to be strong advocates for that.
Right.
And as the leader of the city of Albany, the capital of the great state of New York, that would be my top priority.
Yeah.
Advocate for more funding for the city of Albany so that we can invest more in our city. A city that is the seat of state government, a city that represents so much more, not just in the state of New York, but nationally.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, when you look at New York State, people from around this country are looking at what New York State does. If New York State is not treating their capital city right, what kind of message does that send? So I just believe that we've got to advocate more. We've got to be a stronger advocate. Our assembly people, our state, our senator has to be a stronger advocate at the state level, and then we have to advocate even more at the federal level with our congressmen and our U.S. senators. So
Yeah.
I believe that we got to speak loudly, and we got to stay the course. We cannot give up.
Yeah.
And until we get the answer that is so needed and that we deserve. Can you imagine what an additional $10-20 million could do for the neighborhoods that we're talking about that have vacant and abandoned buildings that continue to number over 700, 800 buildings in the city of Albany? How do you think you're going to address that dwindling housing stock? You got to invest in that housing stock.
Absolutely.
And give people opportunities to invest in it so that they can own those properties and raise their families, and be a part of this Albany of the future. And I want to lead that charge.
Yes. Well, that is the reason why these interviews were so important, so that we can find out who you are, what you plan to do, what you're looking to do, how you want to make the city of Albany better, and that us as the people would know what we need to do on our part to support those movements and to also do what we need to do to be a part of the betterment of Albany and the city of Albany as a whole. And closing and getting those resources, I think one of the biggest things that comes to mind for me is, even if we get those resources, making sure that they are going where they need to go. Because if we get the resources and then it dwindles away and it gets allocated to other places, then at the end of the day, we don't see any improvements. So now that we know what we need to do, we have a goal in mind of receiving these or advocating to get these resources, and then we challenge the state to make sure that we get what we need for the city of Albany, which is actually the capital, the beacon. Whenever someone comes to or looks at New York for the first time and say, hey, where do I want to go in the city? Oftentimes people say, hey, let me go check out the capital, because they don't know like all the other surrounding areas. And they say, let's go to the city, the city's capital or the state's capital first. And then if the capital is not what it needs to be, and giving them the proper experience and showing them the beauty of the state of New York, then that reflects poorly on the state of New York. So we have to definitely make sure that Albany is the beacon of light that it is, and its richness is shown to everybody that comes and lives in the city, and making sure those resources get directed in the right way.
And we need to borrow your phrase of, we want to make sure that the experience that people that have in Albany is always a positive one.
Absolutely.
So that when they leave, they have a desire to return.
Absolutely.
And a desire to stay. So that makes your experience in Albany a positive one.
A great one, yes.
A great one. A great one.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you for your time. I thank you for all your expertise and just sharing your veteran professionalism about the skills and what you look to do with the position that you're seeking in the city of Albany. So I will you success, and have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I will.
Yes. Peace.